Hey guys, we are fashionably late again. Only 10 minutes this time. But guys, Dennis,
Christy,
Alex, Muddy Water Search and Recovery. Dan likely will not be joining us tonight. He is live over on TikTok covering another case right now. But all of you in the comments, those of you watching, welcome. We're glad you're here tonight.
Before we go any further, did we all see the game tonight? Yes, we're going again.
Woohoo!
Yes, exactly.
Against the script.
Yeah.
Say all week long, I've seen that it was going to be 49ers and Ravens through some color scheme on the logo.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Chiefs are going.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, how's it going? Mark, Dow, Kristen, Mac, Tamra. Hope all y'all are doing well. And Mark, I do want to go ahead and put this out. Mark had put in the comments the other day asking to invite like Leanne on a live feed and others who knew Randy may have been at the party. And again, open invite to anybody who knew Randy, anybody that was at the party. You are more than welcome to reach out. We will bring you on live. You can share your story, get that out there. And your story may help bring Randy home.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, it's been a long time. Very long time. So, hi, Sherry.
Dan says, hey, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there. I'm helping a family with the missing 17-year-old. I don't know the boy's name that's missing, but Dan was saying he has autism and has been missing since Friday. So he is working to help them bring this boy home.
Did Dan say this was a current Amber Alert that's ongoing, or is it?
Let me... No, he didn't say in the message.
I'm sure he'll make a comment if it is. Knowing Dan, he's got 3 or 4 computers going and 6 different cell phones at once.
I'll let you pronounce that.
Okay. I'm probably messing this up, but it's Aiden Heinrich. And he said there is no Amber Alert. He doesn't qualify.
Huh. Interesting.
Okay.
I bet Dan is eating that up over there right now then. He is very, very passionate about the Amber Alert system and bringing these kids home.
Yes. And Dan does an excellent job of, being on top of it, getting the word out. Dan has really, he has such a following right now that's going on. And all these people are sharing his videos. I mean, he's doing some pretty incredible work with, everything, but really right now with the Amber Alert stuff, for sure.
And missing_in_USA is his name over on TikTok. If you haven't checked it out, please do. And he's been able to help a lot of families over there already.
Good. That's incredible. Awesome.
So guys, with the announcements we put out, with what you see in the title, we are going to discuss the Randy Leach case tonight. I do want to start by saying the theories, or in some cases rumors, etc., that we're going to discuss tonight, we're not claiming, assuming, or saying that we believe that this is what happened to Randy. This is simply theories that have been put out over the years, and we want to discuss these. We're not accusing anybody.
Gosh, no, absolutely not.
But we're going on, 36 years that Randy has been missing. So as you could imagine, the theories and rumors are everywhere in this case. And until Randy is found, I don't believe we're going to know exactly what happened. But there are two different things. I mentioned this the other night that, speaking for me personally, I don't believe that this is it. I don't believe that Randy committed suicide.
No.
I don't believe that's a part of this. And number two is I do not believe the family is responsible for Randy's disappearance. And on that one, there's a lot of reasons I don't feel they're involved in that. But the biggest one I picked up on very early, almost 3 years ago, that we started working on the case. If you're guilty, you're going to sweep it under the rug. You're going to want it quiet, no attention. The family has consistently gone to courthouses, any media they can get, in contact with law enforcement, pushing them to find answers. You don't do that if you're guilty. So another disclaimer, I don't feel the family
No,
are
I don't
responsible.
either. Absolutely not.
Megan and I, going back, Alberta invited Megan and I almost 3 years ago into her home. We sat with her and Betty and Larry. Very sweet lady, very welcoming. You could feel when she talked about Randy, you can see the pain, you can feel the pain, and you're not guilty and have those emotions. I mean, it was
Right.
genuine.
I just can't imagine what she's been through. I mean, year after year after year.
So while, obviously we're not going to know what happened to Randy till he's found, that is two theories that I strongly believe are not it. Catfish, how you doing? And with the theories that are out there, and Alex, we've discussed this many times, whatever happened to Randy, be it an accident, foul play, him taking off, whatever it comes down to being, it's only one thing that happened to Randy. There may be a lot of little things that lead up to it, but it's just one thing that happened. And I honestly don't think we will know what that one thing is until Randy is found.
Yeah.
And that is a big reason why we have not given up in our search for Randy. When we met with Alberta, one of the things I told her that day was I gave her my word that I and Muddy Water Search and Recovery would not give up until Randy was brought home. And we're going to live up to that. And we're not going to stop till Randy is found.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we have discussed, and we have talked with so many people just since I've been involved with Muddy Waters, and stuff. Just the amount of people that we've talked to, the scenarios, the accusations, the rumors, the theories. I mean, we can honestly say when it comes to a mystery of what happened, that Randy Leach's case is the number one case that is presently, I would say, probably one of the main top ones in the United States at this point. That it's like a spider web. It's a spider web of stuff that just spreads out like crazy, and we've discussed it before, that we know there's only one truth to what has happened, and there is so much other crap that's being said and spread, and is just complete BS that just absolutely is nonsense, and why is there so many? It's not like there's just a handful of things that's out there. It's you could say there's 100 different theories. I mean, if you really wrote them out between all of the documents from law enforcement, if you look at documents, if you look at stories from other students, if you look at stories from other students' parents, if you look at social media as in a whole from today's point of view, it's just crazy. And that is, like we've all discussed many times between all of us, with Tammy and Dan and Jeff, and I've talked with Chris about this, and we've talked about it so many times, is you really have to start putting stuff in categories, and trying to put down your number one things of, okay, well, this is more realistic than this. This is absolutely so far-fetched that we have to throw this all the way at the back of the file cabinet. We have to focus more on these other situations that are more realistic and more current, that have more what would be the correct word I'd want to say here, that's just more provable or more truthful to the accusation or the theory or the rumor, for that point. So I don't know. And Dow has a comment here. Has the family donated DNA for unknown remain comparison? I would probably believe that KBI has probably talked with Alberta and Harold when Harold was alive. I'm sure they've done DNA stuff. I'm sure they've done it probably many a times. Have they ever done it in the different way, like we talked when I talked about it a couple weeks ago about doing it on like Ancestry.com or the other ones, and I can't remember what all that 3, 1, 2, 3 and me or something 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
I can't remember the names, but I don't know if they've gone down that different avenue and looked at it through that way versus looking at on a federal or state level through remains that had been found that were unidentified, etc. And I believe, some of our other cases that we've talked about, I really hope that we can move forward with doing some of those type of Ancestry.com DNA testing for especially young children that have disappeared, etc., that could have been abducted at a young age, trying to move forward with doing some of that work to see if there's a possibility. So, but yeah, many a nights, many hours of into the early morning. I mean, we have gone from one extreme to the other.
And Dow, I cannot confirm it 100%, but I am 99% positive that I have seen the response that they have submitted DNA for that purpose. I believe Alberta would have done that. I believe doing everything she can to get Randy home.
Dennis, did you say that somebody made a comment that there was a Leach family? Would it be Alberta's here with us tonight, or if Larry and Betty, someone from the inner circle of Randy's family, maybe they can chime in and bring that up, what has been done on their part with the DNA stuff. But I'm pretty sure I had read some stuff about the DNA being given, because I believe at one time or another, I think somebody brought it up on a show like a year ago about the DNA, and somebody had mentioned something that the Leaches had given it to the KBI, which, I mean, it's been a while since that was brought up.
Right.
Hopefully, if Alberta's on here tonight or whoever, is here on behalf of the Leach family, a spokesperson, etc. Maybe they will chime in and, catch us all up to date on that subject that Dal is bringing up.
I mean, that's a good point
It
to have DNA
is.
like that.
See, and I know Randy's case is the very first case we started working on as a team. And, going on 3 years now, we've learned a lot moving forward. And that is one of the first questions I ask family members now is about DNA. I don't remember ever asking Alberta that, but I am pretty certain I did see somewhere somebody said that they did submit DNA.
I mean, if they had had that back then, a lot of these cases solved. So,
And technology is
my goodness.
incredible.
Yeah.
And yet, at the same time, you wish there was more because of so many
Right.
missing people out there. And like Randy's case, going on 36 years, and the family seemingly have no more answers today than what they did 36
Right.
years ago. I mean, that's sad. So, guys, when it comes down to breaking down the theories, I've kind of categorized these into 3 different theories: accident, foul play, and even leaving of his own accord. Again, these aren't our personal thoughts. These are what have been shared publicly for the past 36 years. Yeah. And we're just going to discuss those. And tonight, why don't we start with, accident?
Right.
There's several different theories that fall under that category.
Yep.
And one of the more popular theories with an accident is Randy left the party, driving the vehicle, and he may have accidentally drove off the road. He could have driven into a body of water. He could have driven into brush and weeds that have hidden the vehicle. And either one of those, I still believe there is a real possibility of.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know Adventures with Purpose had come to the area multiple times. They searched several bodies of water. Others have come in and searched bodies of water. The family has been out searching with friends all these years. We've done searches, water and ground searches. And, you start thinking, the bodies of water that's most likely have been searched. But Alex, when we were on Google Earth the other night looking at a couple things, there are so many ponds between the Leach residence and where the party has taken place that could hold something.
Yeah, there is a tremendous amount of ponds, and there's also some ponds that appear, a couple different websites that we use to look at historical images. There's even places where ponds are gone now. But yeah, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of ponds, just on the way to the Leach residence from Linwood, from the party location. Any which way you go, there's many bodies of water, ponds, creeks, small to big. Realistically, we would think that all of the probable pathways home would have been checked. You would tend to believe that the police have done everything they could to check every single body of water. If not, they would have been checking for tire tracks in the grass, through the brush, off of the roadways, looked for down fences, trees, brush knocked over. Because we have to remember, it was a drought that year. And that discussion has been brought up many times, that, the water was at a all-time low during that time period. NOAA weather records indicates this. But, at that time of the year, we know that the grass was turning green. We know that the foliage was starting to grow on brush, weeds, trees, everything, bushes. So, I mean, once again, we would think to believe that the police would have done everything possible to look. And, it's pretty safe to say, I think, that everybody knew that Randy was missing. Everybody in town at some given point within a few days probably had heard that a young man from the high school was missing. And you would think that people probably would have been walking out to grab their newspaper or check their mailboxes. And they probably would have thought of things, hey, do I see any tire tracks, in my yard? Is it possible? Yes. Did it possibly happen? Probably not. But I would hope that people would have had it on their minds. And if somebody had a pond, along their route, maybe they would have thought to have looked. But, once again, we know that lots of people were out looking. The police, the family, friends of the family, other students, land, driving vehicles, 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers. I think I heard of some people that were riding horses. We know about the Kaufmans out in the airplane, flying around the very next day and, searching all around, so, anything at this point is possible because, and then, we've also had the discussions of, well, what if Randy didn't go home and he went the opposite way? What if he went to go somewhere else that night after he left the party and he went towards Kansas City, Kansas, or he went towards Bonner Springs, or, he went north towards, Baser, Tonganoxie, and went towards Lansing, Leavenworth, Oskaloosa, Jarblo. Anything is possible, So then that really opens up the realm of a humongous search area of water, this and that. But then we go back to that same scenario. The water was low at that time. So
Mac said that, at one point, Leanne says that the police didn't start looking for 11 days. So by that time, who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. Not that I'm saying that she doesn't have correct information. I have a hard time believing that they waited 11 days. But here's something else to think about. And I brought this up to Dennis the other day. I made a comment to Dennis while Dennis and I was talking, and I said, Dennis, who went missing before Randy in Leavenworth County? Nobody. I don't think there was one case before Randy's in Leavenworth County. So what did Leavenworth County have to go off of for missing people's search and rescue recovery missions? What resources, what history did they have in doing this type of stuff? Well, around here, it's people go missing all the time. Even over in Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, even in that same time period, there was still people going missing and stuff being, happening. So I have it a hard time to believe that the police did not do anything for 11 days. Once again, if we have a spokesperson for the Leach family with us tonight on here, maybe they will bring us up to speed on that statement. Was that true? I just have a hard time believing they waited 11 days. I thought back in the day that the police wouldn't even take a report unless 24 hours had passed. That's what I remember being younger and ever hearing. That's just what I heard. I did have family that was in law enforcement. But as for a missing person, I thought it had to be 24 hours had passed. And if you had not seen them or heard from them, then you filed a missing persons report. Then you started moving forward with search, situations like that. So,
and Dal does have a good point here. He said, yes, but family and friends would be looking, so transporting a vehicle would be extremely risky. That is a good point as well there.
And I think there was a rumor that has made its rounds many a times. And I mean, Dennis, you know what the rumor is that there was a tow truck, rollback truck that was borrowed from the GMC Chevrolet dealership that was in Bonner Springs at that time. I believe there was a student who worked at the dealership on the side, and he checked out a tow truck or rollback truck. I can't remember. I think it was a tow truck. But he had checked out one the night that Randy went missing. So, of course, we know the rumors flew with that. Well, something happened, and he was the one that hauled the car off and got rid of it. So, once again, stuff was said. Was it truthful by any means? Was it somebody else's car? Has this person ever came forward and said why they borrowed the truck, checked it out from the dealership in the middle of the night?
And real quick, Leanne, I hope you didn't take that Alex was trying to discredit you or anything like that. He was simply talking about, 11 days is a long time, and it's hard to understand why it would take 11 days to start looking.
Yeah. I mean, I would believe that, Mr. and Mrs. Leach, Harold and Alberta would have been at the police station that night or the next day, saying, what is going on? My son is not here. I need your help. Please help. That's why, you're a police officer. That's, we pay your salary. Help us, So I would think that they would have been on Leavenworth County, pretty thick trying to get answers and help. So, and like Dennis said, I'm not just trying to say you're lying or discrediting. I'm just saying I have a hard time believing that they did not do anything for 11 days. And I guess this might seem silly to say this, but what is the earliest? And this would be a good one for Jennifer. If Jennifer was with us tonight, I don't know if she is, but if Jennifer was in the audience with us, I'm sure Jennifer could tell us the very first piece of document that was written out by law enforcement, what the day was. I'm sure she could fill us in on those first documents and the dates that would show that, the police were doing something to look for Randy in some way or another by starting to take information, so on and so forth.
Seeing, bringing those documents up, a lot of people believe that law enforcement didn't do anything or could have done more. Obviously, I do think there could have been more they could have done in this case, like many others. But the documents that have been spread all over social media, these are a lot of interviews and polygraphs and physical searches that have taken place over the years. And there has been a lot. I mean, I don't have all of the documents that's been released out there, but I do have a stack of them that it's 1.5 feet, 2 foot tall, and it's all reports like that. Their interviews, their polygraphs, and their physical searches.
I think saying more could have been done is always an easy thing to say. That yes, any case, any situation, more can always be said, that should have been done. But the reality is, we have stacks of paperwork. We don't have this much. So, I mean, there was stuff being done. Absolutely. But could maybe have been done? Exactly. And the reason we say exactly is because that goes back to the statement that I just made a few minutes ago. I mean, who went missing in Leavenworth County before Randy? There was no reports of anybody going missing according to the KBI. So what experience did they have when it really came to someone missing? Because I'm sure Leavenworth County had calls saying, hey, my child ran away. My child hasn't come home. And then a day or two later, they come home. But when they didn't come home day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, then that was a game changer, I would probably say, in the way that Leavenworth County did stuff.
Seeing Dow has it right there. At the time, many police departments still had the boys will be boys mentality. Missing car, teen almost 18 years old. Probably assumed he took off for a few days or just run away.
Yeah. And all the work that we've done, I honestly can't say. I don't remember after Randy went missing. I don't remember how long it was till the next person went missing that was listed on the KBI website. I don't know the time distance. Was it years? Et cetera, blah, blah, blah. Ponytail's comment. I believe it was. I believe they were questioning people within days that following week. Tamara's got a good question, Dennis.
I don't have the exact number of how many people have gone missing in that area since Randy, but there have been a lot. There's been quite a few of them.
Three other ones with just within like a 10-mile, 5-mile radius of Linwood.
I know right there in that area, you had Randy, you had
Jack Schultz,
Folsom, and Bishop. And then since then, not actually Linwood area, but still in Leavenworth County, there is probably 12 or so that are listed as missing right now. But Tamara, we'll look into that and try to get the actual number of how many have gone missing after Randy. Seeing, going back to Dow's comment there, the whole boys will be boys mentality. I could see that having a hand in Randy's case because 17, pre-graduation party, the vehicle's missing too.
Who's to say they weren't just still out having a good time?
Right. Yeah. So I could see where law enforcement would, obviously they are going to consider that in their investigation, but I could see especially that time frame where they would lean more towards that. I don't agree with it, but I can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once again, you know, technology is 100 times different now than it was then.
Right.
You know, they couldn't call down and get, you know, they couldn't get a picture sent over in the car of what the Leach car looked like. You know, I'm sure they probably went to Harold and Alberta, asked them, you know, do you have a picture of the car for, you know, we can use for our reference? You know, but it's not like it is today. It's not like they have phones that they can share pictures of someone that's missing, you know, the flyers immediately, the picture of the car. All they could do is call it in. Someone had to make phone calls. You know, they had to get the VIN number. They had to get the tag number. You know, the process of everything, of course, back then compared to now was, you know, 100 times different. But I just, I mean, I believe that I believe they did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had, how to do the search, etc., for what was going on.
And Ponytail, I'm trying to find that location real quick. And Trisha, she commented that it would be out of character for Randy because, you know, the family have stated he was never late for curfew. If he was, he would call them ahead of time, let them know he's running late. But ultimately, he just generally was not late.
No.
So that would be very out of character for him. But law enforcement didn't know him personally, most likely. I mean, there's a lot of different things in there. And again, this is why I don't like the whole endangered missing runaway. We see on every case that the person is younger than 18 is it brings this particular mindset up, and it may be out of character for them too, but that's the classification today law enforcement puts on those. And it could very well be the same thing back then with this case. Or it could be, as you know, Catfish commented earlier, you know, sometimes it takes law enforcement time to build a case, to get a lead on where they need to go. So, I mean.
Hey, Dennis, can you post that Trisha's comment back up again real quick?
This one?
Yes, but that is out of character, Randy. So, Trisha, are you making this comment because of stuff that you've read all over social media, videos on YouTube, etc., or did you personally know Randy?
Okay.
And I can't see the little itty bitty picture of her, so I can't tell how old she is. So my question is she making this comment because of stuff that she's seen and read all over, or did she know Randy?
She did not personally know him, but has studied the case.
Okay.
And Ponytail, I want to say he was from Kansas City. I will look into that and get back to you on that to confirm that. But I think he was from Kansas City.
Okay. Now she said, what did she say? I agree if Randy stuck to curfews. Plus, what guy wouldn't be excited to have sounds like the tractor lawn? Exactly.
Right.
But then Dow, excuse me, acquired a GED, and up till the late 90s, it was very easy to get hired on. Let's go and try it. Yep.
Seeing time has changed so much, and many times it is hard to remember that when you have a case this old, 36 years. It was a complete different department, very limited technology, resources.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing like today.
Yeah.
And then Dallas said, crime, they just may not have the expertise to do a thorough investigation. So, yeah.
And now there are some areas that are very rural that that still happens today. And I don't believe it's because law enforcement aren't trying and that they're not doing their jobs. I just, like you're saying, you know, inexperience, it plays a big part. And, you know, everybody starts somewhere. And many of these officers turn out to be incredible with the experience. So, yeah, I think experience could have a lot to do with Randy's case.
Hi, Jen.
Jennifer. Jennifer, would you happen to know what date the first document come out that's a law enforcement document in Randy's case? We're trying to get a date of when law enforcement, I guess, technically begin,
Yeah.
or proof of the investigation anyway.
And Tamara wrote, did they call in state patrol or other groups to help with the search?
I know reading the reports, Kansas Fish and Game had their boat on the river. The Highway Patrol had a plane in the air. I forget the name. There was another man that had an airplane in the air. Let's see. The FBI, KBI, there are reports from both of them. So they at least a little bit had something to do with the investigation back then. Aaron, on the cold case task force, there is no updates that I am aware of on that.
And then Mark Post, sheriff report says 416-88-915 dispatched to Leach home to take a missing persons report. Responding officer met with several teenagers who were at the party. Officer talked to Ann Irwin.
Thank you, Mark.
So, you know, a few days into it, you know, they had evidently had started. So not to discredit Leanne by her comment that she made, but so it does show that they started doing some stuff. But as you know, the physical searches, you know, going from property to property, etc. You know, I'm sure Mark or Jennifer, one of them will have a date.
See, and that's something that we know doing what we do, that sometimes it does take time to line up what properties you need to get on. I don't know how it was with law enforcement in 88. Today, they could ask the property owner, but they almost have to have a warrant to access properties today.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the case back then. We can just go knock on the door. They may not have had that luxury.
Sure. And Jen says 418-88 is the first interview we have besides the initial report Mark mentioned. Physically go out. I like Samantha's comment. She says they might have waited to physically go out as they assumed he would come home. Absolutely.
That I mean that very well could have been North County protocol. You know, back in the time period is they would show up, do paperwork, but they weren't going to invest in putting, you know, manpower out to start doing searches because
Who's to say he just took a while back home?
Well, back then it was 10 out of 10 that a child was going to come back home because Randy was the first one to go missing.
Yeah.
Any period of time. So, I mean, it was a 10 for 10 that a runaway would eventually come back home or be found, etc., and all clear would be given.
Right.
So, yeah, but the protocol might have been X amount of days before they physically did ground searches. So, you know, we don't know. We don't know the law. We don't know their protocol, their, the steps that they did when it came to a missing persons case. I mean, I believe they probably had some type of check sheet protocol that they started with A and ended up at Z. So I don't know.
Right. I mean, I was talking about, I think it was Samantha's. They probably thought he was going to come home. So why? And then without evidence of foul play, they didn't invest a lot into it.
Right.
So.
And with that time frame, their resources are way more limited than they are of today's time too. So that would make sense not wanting to.
Yeah. Tamara says less resources are given for missing person because they are not a crime. Excuse me.
So Mac, with
It
that, could have been 11 days before they physically begin searching. But if they go out to physically do a search, then that means they had spent time before that getting the search lined up, getting access to the property.
It's important to note we don't know how the documents the Leach has received were picked. Yes. Well, I don't know for certain, but I don't think the whole class. Yeah, right. We have the whole case file. Yeah.
What about classmates searching until law enforcement got on board at least?
Yeah.
Yes. And this has been stated by Leanne, family, etc. There was a lot of classmates, family, friends that were searching the area for Randy, starting the day they realized he was missing.
Alberta said in an interview that she has not taken a polygraph up to then anyways. Harold and Alberta saw Irwin at a restaurant and Harold asked her why she hadn't taken the polygraph. Irwin was a waitress there. What restaurant is that?
Saying I do think that she should have had a polygraph done.
Yeah. How long after the party did they leave town?
I got a question just from what you just said. I wonder what the law states. Because then again, it's back then compared to now. They couldn't force someone to do a polygraph unless they thought there was foul play. But the only way they could do foul play is if they brought them in and charged them with something and did the polygraph then, right? Well, I mean, how did that work at that point?
That time frame, I have no idea. Dow says searching doesn't necessarily mean searching gold wells or ditches. It may have been limited to a few aerial searches to see if his car was abandoned on a back road. Because I don't have the date. I mean, it's in our box of paperwork here of when the Highway Patrol had their plane in the air and Kansas Fish and Game was on the water. I do know that it was stated through them they were looking the water was shallow, so they're looking for a vehicle in the water. They're also looking at the banks to see where any grass or debris was pushed over and tracks coming down in of where a vehicle could have went in. So I don't remember offhand the dates that they were out doing that, but it wasn't, that may have actually been in the 11-day, 12-day that Leanne's talking about. But
And Dal says only in a criminal investigation. For your polygraph, Alex.
Well, I know. So when Keith Kaufman and I had talked about the airplane search that him and his dad did, you know, I had asked Keith. I said, "Well, you know, how far out from the area did you guys fly? You know, how far away did you go?" And he said, "Honestly, I don't know, because all my dad told me was to keep my head looking out the window down at the ground and look for the car, you know." And they had looked at the ponds and the creeks, you know, and they went out on the river and flew. Because I had asked, you know, Keith, I said, "Well, how low did you guys fly?" And he told me, he said that it was some time before this had happened with Randy that Keith was flying a high dollar RC airplane that he had. And I told Dennis this story, and Keith had lost the airplane, and he knew where he lost it, but he physically couldn't walk. So this friend of the Kaufmans that had this airplane, they loaded up and went out, and they actually flew low enough to the ground that they found Keith's airplane in this, you know, tree lined field area where he had lost it. And he told me that, you know, they were basically flying that low to the ground looking. So, you know, but when I had said, "Well, did you guys go 5 miles outside of the basically the area where Randy had went missing, the Leach's home, all that," you know, he just told me, he said, he goes, I honestly don't remember, because the whole time we was doing it, my dad just told me to keep my head out the window and keep it at the ground to look for the car, you know, in the creek or something. So, but that was I believe that was the following day, you know, the day that when Randy went missing, that is when that happened. Because I mean, the majority of people who are on here know that the Kaufmans lived right next to the Irwins, where the party was. The Kaufman family, that's where they lived. So,
seeing Jennifer says Fish and Game went out 4/28 of 88. And then Dow ponds aren't usually clear. That is true. To see something down in the water that's underwater from the air, you know, the lighting's going to have to be right. The angle's going to have to be right. There's so
X-ray
much
vision,
that lines up
you
with
know.
that. And Dal, when we first started working on this case, the first thing we made a point to do is not look Randy's case up on social medias and immediately jump into all the theories. We wanted to start from scratch as well. And then as we started digging into it, little by little, things were coming up that would lead one direction, then something else would lead another. And honestly, before we knew it, we're where we are today. And seeing trails going everywhere, but none of those are definitive. You know, it's all little things that lead. And then a lot of times those little things kind of peter out and back to the beginning.
I don't think there was a lot of time to do something with the car. So what does that leave for options?
To me, if you wanted to get rid of a car fast and you couldn't transport it a long distance without risking it being seen, I would think an old pond, um, back in the middle of the woods somewhere, out of sight, out of mind, bury it until attention comes down off of it till it's safe to move it elsewhere.
More important than when law enforcement started searching when the keys were last seen is far more important, and who actually had them.
You see,
Exactly.
and with that one,
Yep.
there are reports so and so had the keys, then this other so and so was seen with the keys. And I haven't seen anything where they've dug more into that
Yeah.
to follow up. But like Jennifer was saying, we don't know how many of the documents that there are that are actually out there. So that could be something that's just never been released.
Yeah, because I mean, there was, you have what you have. Um, I have what I had before I ever met you all. Um, you know, um, Jennifer has what she has. So I mean, there's no telling how many pages there are, how many duplicates of each individual item, et cetera, that there could be. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
And Miss Kaufman stated Mr. Kaufman went out on an ATV and searched the woods and old buildings. Leanne expressed doubt on this statement in a prior live feed. I do remember that. And Dow, Alex, you're friends with Keith and has been able to confirm that they did go out and look. And it's in some of the one of the reports somewhere. We've read that as well. That it's
Yeah.
actually in the reports of their search efforts.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Mr. Kaufman passed away a while back. It's been years and years since Tom Kaufman passed away. Um, and just this past year, I had sat with Keith and his mom at Keith's house, and we had talked about everything because also Keith's mom was the lunch lady. Not too many people know that, so they had even talked with Keith's mom at school concerning the students and how the students were acting at lunchtime. There was stuff that was brought up about that. But yeah, I mean, they had been in the plane. They were out on three wheelers, four wheelers. Over a few days. I mean, there was it seemed like from the way I gathered it is the townspeople. A lot of people did come together, students, families of the students, and they were trying to look. Whether or not 100% that is all documented, every T's crossed, every I's dotted in paperwork that proves this, I don't know. But when talking with people and listening to the stuff that happened, it sounds like it. It sounds like people really did try to find Randy.
And it just got me to thinking, the small town like Vaser, Linwood, whatnot, that's going to spread, right? You're going to tell someone, and then they're going to tell someone, and it could be completely outside. So I wonder how many people, gosh, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. See, there's a question. Do you guys believe Randy or the car are not in water? I'm torn. I think it's possible that him and the vehicle could be in water, but I think it's just as possible that they're not. It's one of those. Me personally, I can't say definitively one way or the other. And Jen had brought up the only actual report that states Randy didn't have his keys was one person. Everything else states he wouldn't give up his keys or don't mention keys at all. Because there was a report that somebody did ask him for his keys because they felt, I believe, he was intoxicated or high,
Right.
and he wouldn't give them the keys. And then you had the report that the other person was seen later with the keys.
Yep. Because Mark says Bobby Wilson stated that Randy did show him the keys at one point.
See, I was thinking that was Bobby Wilson, but there is so much on this that it's hard for me to remember without looking at the paperwork just because there's so much.
And then this one. Honestly, after 40 years, most physical evidence will be gone. If someone was directly involved, chances are they would have called in anonymously, called in an anonymous tip to collect $25,000.
You know, a lot of physical evidence would be gone after nearly 40 years, but you know, going back to, and I forget the name of the lake, Mead Lake. You know, there were human remains that was recovered from there that were still pretty much intact that had been there for over 40 years. And that is something I personally thought would be impossible.
Yeah.
And Mead Lake did show that that was different. 40-year mark, I think there's going to be enough evidence there to find. Law enforcement would have their work cut out for them in their investigation as to what actually happened. And as Dow said, or something completely unrelated to Kansas happened. And I agree that that is just as possible as everything else.
And Bobby says, well, Samantha, I think Randy hid the car, changed his name because he had too much going on in his life from his dad, and he had his mind made up after the party.
You know, I've heard others bring up similar to what Catfish just did, but you also got to look at, you know, he just got his new tractor. He had his Mustang in the shop being restored, getting a fully restored Mustang back.
So, yeah.
So he did have a lot of good going on in his life at the time as well.
But what's funny though is when we go back to the play that was made about Randy, that was done at Kansas University at KU. You know, the play totally comes across that Randy was not this person that he was made out to be. Because in the play, when they bring up the scenario that he was going to California and he left to go to California, he didn't care about the car. You know, he didn't care about materialistic items according to how Randy was portrayed in the play. And that's something that, you know, we've all discussed too is, you know, yeah, he had this Mustang, he had this tractor, but, you know, the stories and the stuff that's out there that maybe life at home wasn't what it was cracked out to be, and he was going to leave or he did leave, you know, etc. Because, you know, we've now had accounts, whether it's leads, it is eyewitness accounts on paper of California, Colorado. There was out in the middle of Kansas. There was a party a day or two later. Something, I don't have those notes in front of me by any means. But we've had some accounts of different states. So in the realm of having nice things and this and that, you know, yeah, he had this car that was getting restored. He had a brand new John Deere tractor so he could make money. He was cutting grass, whatever he was doing. You know, we had these different things, but when we go back and look at the play and how the play portrays Randy, it's not the same kid. You know, and I've brought this up to Dennis is I would like to understand and talk to the play guy, the person who did the play, and really understand his mindset of why he portrayed Randy this way in that play. Is it because of all the documents over the years at that time period that were released? Was it because of rumors and theories and accusations and everything else that he had heard? But you know, what was the truth, what was not the truth, and really, how was Randy? How did he truly believe about these things? Because yeah, you know, why would he leave? But what would be the reason he would leave? You know,
Name changes have to be published in newspaper or major circulation. Sorry. And he wouldn't have been able to change his social security number. Mark says, if you're running away, you don't do it in the middle of the night when you are legless and not take the money.
but here we go. Let's go back to the rumor mill. I mean, wasn't there a document somebody supposedly said that Randy had a whole wad of cash on him? Now I'm not talking $30, $50, a couple $100. You know, $1,000+ Well, I mean, we all know $1,000+ back then would get you way farther than it would today. You know,
Jen says, Bobby, one of the people who was well versed in the party scene, did say it seemed like Randy was faking being messed up.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Dal says maybe he thought the Mustang would always be there and could go home after he was 18.
That is possible too.
You know,
Yeah.
and we could even go back to this comment. I mean, you could run away and go somewhere and use a different name and get a job working for cash, you know, and shack up somewhere. I mean, life was a lot different back then than it was now. You know,
Dal says, can't think of these things rationally. We are talking about a 17-year-old who may have just wanted to get the hell away. I feel it.
And that, I mean, very good point. Something we've seen in other cases when it's 16, 15, 17-year-olds is generally at that age, you don't think rational. I didn't think
I didn't
rational
either.
at that
My
age.
goodness. And said that was the Miller documents where they had all the money, but a family members interviewed said Randy had started a new job a few months prior.
And you know, for Randy to have a big wad of cash like that, one thing that's bothered me with it, he mowed yards. You know, he would get paid to go out and mow people's yards. I don't like mowing the yard. It's work. So if he's got access to a lot of cash, you know, why is he still going out mowing yards?
Well, he's saving up money. California allows you to go by an alias as long as it isn't to elude criminal prosecution. Goodness.
wow,
Yeah.
wow, that's interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
could that information have been known though in 1988? I mean, because let's be honest, California has been brought up so many times. You know, I mean, when it comes to, I guess, one way being a more realistic situation than not, California has been brought up. We went through the whole National Geographics thing. So, yeah, I mean, one thing and look at California and everything about it, is a more plausible than some of these other off the wall theories and rumors and accusations and, stuff that's been brought to our attention and everybody's attention over the years.
And Dow said define large wad, and I think Ponytail covered it pretty good here. It could have alluded to having a bunch of cash when it could have only been a bunch of small bills, but a lot of them. And Mark says like $1,900, I think. I don't remember seeing an actual dollar amount when I read that. Just it was a stack of bills, basically a big stack of bills. And again, these reports, you have people, and not necessarily with this particular one, but you've got people that would make a comment today, 2 days later, their story changes, they say something else. So knowing that, we try to look into any statements made as a credibility thing. Is this credible? And not based just off of what they've said in other reports, but other stuff that's come in about them. And when it come to the Miller documents that talked about the money, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he did take a polygraph, and I believe he failed his, if I'm not mistaken. Jennifer says there's also the right to go missing, but law enforcement wouldn't still be investigating if they found him after he turned 18. And that is true. And that is something that we have run into on an unrelated case. A young man had run away and he was found. This happened multiple times. The last time he was close to 18, and the circumstances of him running away, they did allow him to stay where he was. And after he turned 18, they did take him off the missing persons list. So, if they knew where Randy was after he turned 18, they would have taken him off that list and it wouldn't still be considered a missing persons case. And Jennifer says, yes, he did. He failed that polygraph and deception was detected.
Was it detected that he had money on him, or was it detected on a certain dollar amount?
I believe they found deception or determined deception in more than one thing with him. And Mark says the Ed Miller report, it was in excess of $1,500 that Randy supposedly had. And again, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that is the only report that stated that Randy had a large wad of cash. Okay, and Jennifer, she doesn't think they specified what it was that they thought was a lie. But I do. I just looked at his the other day.
Just out of curiosity. I mean, I used to mow grass. I mowed grass for a long, long time. Made decent money at it on the side. I don't quite think mowing grass paid the same in 1988 as it did up to just a few years ago. Um, you know, across the board. But I am curious, and I don't know if a member in the audience could do this for us. I am just curious if someone can tell me in the state of Kansas in 1988 what the minimum wage was. What was minimum wage in the state of Kansas in 1988? And I'm just saying this because if you worked at McDonald's or you worked at a gas station or you worked at, let's say, the local nursery in Linwood that there was at that time, the greenhouse or something. Just out of curiosity, what would be the minimum wage that someone would probably make? And I'm just saying this to realistically think, and not that Randy had a regular job, but just what would the average kid be carrying around?
These are all over. Um, Congress.gov is showing it was 335 an hour. Then let's see. Aaron said it was 310. Dow said 265. Do I not have sound? Oh, I can't hear Alex.
Did I mess it up?
Okay, Matt can hear me, but not Alex.
Whoops. Okay.
Mark hears me.
I thought I messed it up. Sorry.
You messed up Alex's.
How did I do that?
Okay, he's not muted over here.
No. What is happening? Oh, okay.
Okay, he's going to come back in.
Yeah.
And Dow has a good question here. How would he know the dollar amount? Would Randy have been flashing the money and talking about how much it was specifically?
Well, if you think about it, a kid of that age, you're kind of excited sometimes when you have that amount of money, and you may, I mean, I don't know.
And then as close as it seems he was with his mom and dad,
Yeah.
And especially in 1988, that is a lot of money for a 17-year-old to have and mom and dad not know. So
Right.
The Miller report stated that he felt Randy had in excess of $1,500 on him and that he was a good mark to rob. Okay, here's Alex.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
I don't know what happened. I had to bust out and come back.
Exactly. A kid is going to flash money.
What did I miss?
let's see. We were talking about the money. Mark, I think he made the whole thing up. Ed Miller was not a reliable person. Remember, Ed Miller also stated that he was paid $50 to dump the car. And I agree with Mark. I don't think Ed Miller's statement is credible. Again, can't be ruled out until Randy is found and it comes out what actually happened to Randy. But I really don't find his information credible. He did say he's paid $50 to dump the car. And first in a lake, then in a river. And if I'm not mistaken, law enforcement actually went out to those locations and searched. Yes, as Mark said, the cops looked.
Yeah.
And nothing was there.
Well, that one's good though. How did he go from 60 to 1,500 to go to a barbecue? Surely even Randy would have known that's insane to have that much.
Right.
And then, could Randy have been working undercover doing a possible drug sting? Unusual to flash that much cash as part of a drug buy.
Well, even back in 1988, he's a minor, so they would have to have parents' permission. Plus, he wouldn't have been listed as a missing person and all of that attention coming in on it.
But I think, I mean, we kind of brought that up in the past because didn't we kind of go back, or didn't someone bring up, what was it, White Boy Rick from, was it Detroit area? Back in the 80s, it was a white kid who became a gun dealer, drug dealer or something, and he was underage and he was working for the cops and he ended up going to jail. But I mean, we have brought up the whole thing about something like this with Randy, and that Randy possibly could he have gone into the witness protection if somehow he was involved in something with drugs and all this and that happened. But once again, he was only 17, you know, and if that was the case, you know, I mean, it's crazy because I think it was brought up, well, what if he was in the witness protection program? What
Right.
if Randy was at these properties in Colorado that the Leach family had owned? I mean, this is stuff that's come up in the past, you know, that we've all, you know, heard or talked about or discussed at one time or another. You know, but I think, you know, you had to be of age or you couldn't even go into the witness protection program. You couldn't work for the police, but I don't know how truly truthful that is, you
And
know?
if they did, they would have had to have taken his family too, being he was a minor. And then when you look at the area for years after that, there was no major drug busts, no major criminal activity taken down in that area either. So that kind of eliminates witness protection as well. Doesn't eliminate it completely, but it drops it down to very, very slim chance.
Yeah.
How lax were they on protocol back then? And if they did convince him and it turned sour, would they cover up their mess? You know,
That's a good question.
right.
It really is. Yeah, I don't know.
And Dow, this is one I think I finally got to disagree with you on something. I've agreed everything he has said. He said small town Kansas sounds like someone was watching too many movies. Small towns is where your drugs, if they're not coming over the border, that's where your drugs are being made. Meth is cooked in small towns. I moved here from Lebanon, Missouri. It's notorious for it. So just because it's a small town doesn't mean there's not major criminal activity going on. Hot dang, I got to disagree with Dow. Ponytail, he still could have lied to someone about how much money he actually had, and that person, he could have lied and told others who may have meant him ill will. That is possible. But again, going back to Ed Miller, I really have trouble finding any credibility in anything he has said. And thank you, Mark. Randy had an account at the credit union and the money remained untouched. But what's it is for high profile federal cases. Right, but that can stem from small towns too, though. Just things I've seen in my past in small towns, that one particular case they did have people in witness protection on. Yeah, but with all these rumors, they're talking high sophisticated cover up. That is true. I do see what you mean coming from there.
Oh, I'm under the weather currently, but when I feel better, I'll pull the newspaper about the big drug bust in Lawrence. Thank you, Jen.
What wasn't there in Jen, since Jen's literally just talking to us, was there not, and I think we've discussed this, Dennis, was there not some rumor or something that Randy's Mustang was originally owned by some big drug dealer in Lawrence? And that was one of the rumors, that it was owned by some big drug dealer, and somebody said it was a retaliation thing over the Mustang being sold, or something like that. Do you guys remember that, or does Jen ever remember seeing that document or information in regards to that, about the Mustang being owned or sold by some big drug dealer or something like that? And it had to do with Lawrence. And because I think when we had read that stuff was also when we had read the information about Randy's class ring being mailed, right, Dennis? Was it
right?
But was
Now, the ring being mailed was separate from that rumor, though.
No, but I mean, it was in Lawrence, though.
Right.
The ring was mailed from well, it was at least mailed. Yeah, it was in Lawrence. Didn't it come from the Lawrence apartment complex? I think was the address, and wasn't the stamp or something on the envelope? Wasn't it stamped Lawrence, Kansas, from the mailing at the post office?
I want to say yes.
I mean, these are things we've talked about so long ago. But the Lawrence thing is brought up multiple times.
Jen says the ring came from an apartment in Lawrence.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, Dal, I do have your number. I'll get a hold of you.
Oh, that is weird. It's a weird address with a half in the address.
Right.
What?
Rumors are often used to sidetrack an investigation. Rumors are easy to get started. Just withhold crucial information.
Yeah. Yes, rumors will grow on their own.
That is something that has happened in Randy's case so bad. You know, I honestly believe if it wasn't for all the actual rumors involved in his case, he probably would have been found by now.
Oh.
Dow, that has been done, but they don't release any of the information.
And Lee just said, though, yes, a Lawrence address, but mailed from Missouri.
That's what I was thinking, that it had the Lawrence address, but I couldn't remember where it was actually mailed from.
Park.
Yeah. Half is usually an apartment attached to primary
Okay.
dwelling, like a basement, apartment, or garage.
Okay, that makes sense.
It can
That
be
makes more sense
unofficial.
now.
So, guys, I know we've asked this many times in the past, but your opinions, do you think Randy's case involves an accident, foul play, left on his own? You know, let us know in the comments what you're thinking on that. We've been started off with accident, and then we kind of jumped into everything else. There are, like Trisha, foul play. Foul play, I've heard and seen different theories that Randy may have been killed over a girl, kind of a
Yes.
jealousy thing. The rumors killed over drugs, somebody killed him out of a fit of rage. What are your thoughts kind of on that? And Alex, we'll start with you. Kind of throw you under the bus here.
We've talked about so many of them, and we've always discussed our 50-50. As much as it points, I believe there's a possibility that he left. I really do. There's enough accounts of it. There's enough leads. There's enough stuff that's been speculated that he left. I believe that. I also believe that he met with some type of foul play. I mean, I'm really at a 50-50 split on it. I believe that he met with, if not that, he met with some foul play for something. I believe he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. He saw something he shouldn't have seen. He did something he shouldn't have done. Because as many times as we've talked, Randy was pretty good about being home when Randy had to be home. If Randy had to be home at midnight, Randy had to be home at midnight. I firmly believe that, if Randy did not leave on his accord, that at some point in the night between 11:30 and 11:45, Randy knew that he needed to leave to get home. Because it was about a 10-15 minute drive, I guess, to get home. And I believe that if he met with foul play, I personally, I do not believe he went into water. Just because of the amount of people that have searched, stuff that has happened over all these years. I just don't believe that. I could believe it if he went out of the area in total general and then had an accident and went in water. out of the realm of where people thought he could have gone. I could possibly believe that. But if not, if not going out of state on his own will, and he met with foul play, I believe the car was probably buried. I believe it was either buried or it was hidden for some time period till things calmed down. Because, let's be honest. How many people have ever put hay up in a barn? In a barn that's full of hay, they're pretty huge barns and there's a lot of hay, and it would be real easy to put a car in there and put hay all around it and hide it. So I could see the car being hidden for some time, something like that, or I could see the car being buried. If somebody had a way to a piece of equipment, and there has been people brought up that did have access to equipment, that did have access to land. It's very possible that could have happened. But I think within time, if we are able to gain access to certain places and we have GPR, I believe in time we can clear a couple of these high profile areas, which there's a couple of them where GPR need to be used. Absolutely 100%. It is not worth our time to even show up on the property without GPR. There's no reason to go there. We have to have GPR in order to check 2 different properties that we have possible leads, we have possible information that we have to follow up on. If we can do that, that will be unbelievable if we can move forward with that one of these days. We have an actual couple properties right now that literally in the last 2 days we are trying to get permission on properties. And Dennis is working on it. I am working on it. We have tracked down some people that own the properties. And Dennis and I are both working on trying to gain access to them. These are totally new properties that have just come up to us within the last 2 weeks that's come across. So we'll see how it goes, and if we can gain access. But that's really my top thoughts on the whole, Randy's case. Is it's either he left on his own accord to get away, or he met with foul play because he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. He was a part of something that he shouldn't have been a part of. Honestly, in my heart, I just don't feel that he drove off an embankment and went in water. With the searches that were done, the water being at an all-time low, I just don't believe it, within the reality of being in the general area of the party.
And I seen Jennifer and Mark comment about the ponds on 166. We are working to get out there to get permission to get into as many of those ponds as we possibly can, run sonar, and be able to document those searches to show one way or the other on those. So we are very hopeful of getting, I would love to get all of them searched too, but we are very hopeful of getting a lot of those searched this year.
I honestly think at some point this is going to be an all-day event where we are literally going to have to drive door to door with business shirts on, business cards, the missing persons flyer. And we are literally going to have to go door to door down 166, all these major thoroughfares that go from the party to the Leach residence, to do it once and for all to get permission. and some of these other locations that we have that are not even in the general area. And, that's just where we're at.
Seeing there is another team that may be coming up this spring to do some searches with us. And that would be a good weekend to spend in the area door knocking. He's got water sonar, can dive. That would be a good weekend out there door knocking, getting access to these and getting these knocked out.
If we can make that happen, that would be the best way to do it, is literally show up, introduce ourselves, ask the permission. We're trying to put these rumors to rest. Your property is in the main pathway. Whether it's been searched previous or not, we have our man with us. We have a diver. We can do this. We can be in and out of your property as quick as possible. And, we will get you marked off the list for anything in the future to make it, publicly known, social media, anything and everything that, yes, this property was checked on this date by a diver, so on and so forth,
And yes, Jen, there's also that pond on Golden not far from his house that did show a car-shaped anomaly on one of the year's images. I do believe I've got that pond down on our search list already, but definitely want to get that checked. I would like to start on 166, closest to the location of the party, and work our way all the way down 166. Then come back in every route that he could have taken to go home, search every pond between.
Yeah.
And if anybody in the Linwood area watches this, if you have a property in the area, whether you lived there in 1988 or not, if you would like somebody to come out and do a sonar search on your pond, or walk the property and look, do a search on the property, reach out to us, free of charge. We will 100% come out, do the search. And not only could it possibly help this family find answers, but can give you peace of mind as well, knowing your property is cleared.
Is there a route from the party to his parents in land, not using roads with those? What do you call them? Vehicles made for grassy land.
From where that party took
Yeah.
place to where he lived, he would have to be on the roads.
Yeah.
And Jen, yes, for the most part, a sub-bottom profiler, they are incredible tools. But yes, an underwater metal detector, doing a grid search with a diver would be very similar to that. Now, the regular underwater metal detector may not read as deep underwater, as far as in the ground underwater, as a sub-bottom profiler, but it would still read deep enough to pick up a vehicle that's buried under there. I have not seen one report of anyone that was at the Red Bridge that night, except Leanne mentioned it. Yeah, I don't recall an actual report on the Red Bridge. But again, we've gone through so many of these that it's a good. I'm going to have to go back through what we have and see if we do have any reports that mentions the Red Bridge. It's so possible he's tucked in some deep trees, or in the very first episode AWP did, they found a cat buried in the mud on sonar, but I'm yet to see anyone see if it's Randy down there. I follow this close.
Goodness.
I think that's a car, not a cat.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if something were in a pond. They would have to be extremely lucky that it remained undiscovered after 40 years.
Well, you never know.
It would, but a lot of these ponds are way out there in the county too, so there's not people there constantly. Some of these, the property owners may only see if they're down mowing around or cutting hay, something along those lines. So it's depending on where the pond is on the property. If it's an accident, that pond's going to have to be fairly close to the road. So it's one of those. I can't say that I think he's in a pond somewhere, but at the same time, I can't rule it out until he is found.
I think too, and on that situation, I think we need to go back with the websites that we use that has the historical images, especially the one site where you can choose the year, and we literally need to do stretches of certain houses along these main roads and see what ponds were there at that time in 1988 and which ponds were not, because we know for a fact that there's a couple locations where ponds have been bulldozed in and there's ponds that have emerged. So we really need to, get a list and a certain set of houses, properties that the ponds were there in that 1988. Because it makes no sense for us to, of course, do every one if we can't prove that every pond was there in 1988.
Right.
And of course, we can't do nothing about the ones that were filled in and drained or whatnot, possibly in that scenario, besides a GPR.
Okay, guys, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have got to head home. I've got to get ready for work tomorrow. This is getting amazing. You need to definitely let me know what everybody says. Okay. It was good seeing everybody.
Good.
Bye, Alex. Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
And Jen says, Dow, check out aerials for the pond on 166th and Wood Road. It looks small, but you can fit a ranch house in, and that pond, it never gets any smaller, only bigger. And that is something else I see in certain ponds in that area, is going back in time using satellite imaging. They don't really get smaller. They grow, but I haven't seen them dry up on there. Chrissy, everyone's saying bye and good night. Mark says, have to get in these ponds again. Going back to the door knocking, I did have law enforcement contact me. This has been a while back ago now, but they were in the Linwood area following up on some things in Randy's case. And a property owner had told them that some people had knocked on their door and asked permission to do a sonar search on their pond for Randy. And they gave permission, but nobody ever showed up to do the search. So when they were telling law enforcement about this, law enforcement asked around and learned that we were doing searches in the area too. So they wanted to reach out to see if that had been us. If we get permission to do a search, we're going to have that gear with us. and we're going to do that search immediately. So unfortunately, that one wasn't us. But, when we do go knock on doors to try to get permission to do these searches, the boat, the sonar, the underwater cameras, we're going to have everything with us we need to do those searches right then. Get those done, get those documented, and move on to the next one, or hopefully find answers and bring Randy home. But we'll definitely have our gear with us when we do this. And if the other team does get to come up and join in on this search, they will have all of their equipment with them as well. I do know there was some ponds searched by law enforcement back then. I don't have the exact dates, but they did dive some ponds. They dove a couple spots on the river. And I want to say they also dove over near a Cedar Creek, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. But technology diving today versus back then, it's night and day. We talked about OK Diver a lot on here. I want to bring him on another live with you guys and see if he would come on and answer any questions you have towards a diver, so he can help us help all of us better understand, what equipment divers are using today, what they do, how they do it, and help us all have a better understanding of that.
Yeah.
And Dow, once you exhausted this area, are you willing to go to other states for underwater search if a specific place was given? 100%. Without a doubt. I mean, yes. And Dow, I know you told me to get your number from Alex, but I just put my phone number in the comment section there as well. But there's been other searches done that was not in our general area or in Alex's general area. I've got a search in Nebraska coming up later this year, and potentially 2 different cases in Arkansas that we may get to do searches on this year. So going out of state, it may take us a little bit to get there, but definitely something we would consider doing. And Gloria says also a lot of people just don't want to get involved, or most people don't want to be the ones to find him passed on either. My gut says he's close, but where and how after 40 years can he be seen under mud? I fully understand. Somebody goes and they buys property, they don't want strangers coming in, going through it. So I fully understand that in the mindset of, I don't want nobody on here. Then you had, a missing persons case. Some people just don't want involved with that, period. Some could be fear of retaliatory if it's foul play. Some of it just don't want involved because of the drama. So I fully understand where they're coming from with all of that. And as Jennifer states here later on, landowners have rights. While it's the compassionate thing to do, it's not mandatory for them to allow us to search. Alex, right now, I think we're running maybe 50-50 when it comes to property owners giving us permission.
Yeah.
And if we knock on the door and ask a property owner, we introduce ourselves, we kind of explain what's going on and ask permission. And let's use a sonar search as an example. If the property owner tells us no, they don't want us on their property, legally, literally the only thing I can say is, here's my card in case you change your mind. Have a nice day, sir. Anything more than that can be considered harassment towards that landowner, being he already told us that we weren't allowed to be on the property. That has happened several times. There's times that the property owner doesn't even live in the area. So I've written letters to property owners. One particular area, I needed permission from 3 people to access the spot. One person never responded, which I assumed that one of those we just don't want involved in it. The second person responded, and yes, absolutely, please do. Just let us know when you're going to be here so we know when you're on the property. The third person, don't you ever come on my property. You have no permission to be here. Don't come near it, and I'm keeping your information. I mean, so it is literally all over the board. Talking in person, I've had them say yes, absolutely. And I've had them say no, not a chance. And for me, if they say no, that does not automatically mean that I assume they're hiding something or covering something, because most of the time they just don't want strangers on their property.
No. And I wish, and I know this is a lot to ask for, but I just wish that people, even if they do not want us on their property and it is a no, please just let us know. Just don't ignore it, because, then you question, well, did they get the letter? Or well, this, should we write them another letter? So, I wish people would just be like, hey, this is so-and-so. You sent me a letter about my property. I discussed it with my husband or wife, and, we would like to not participate in your search, but we are just, responding to you to let you know that the answer is no. I would much rather have a no than I never got a nothing,
Right.
I mean, just because we just need, something, and I guess it kind of comes back to also the GPR. We've got so many cases, and I know we've said this a billion times. We got so many cases we need GPR on. And Randy's case is one of them. We have a couple locations of high interest, and we're not even going to move forward on it till we have GPR, because the second we get the no, then we go to law enforcement, and then we try to work it that way and be like, look, we have the equipment to do this. Can you help us? This is why. This is the reasoning. This is why. This is the leads. This is the documentation why we are wanting to go to this property. And then we need your help to get us onto the property. We have the equipment now. Please help us, help you, help the family get answers. But we have so many of those situations that, I desperately want to move on them, but it's not, I don't want to do it till we have it, because when they tell us no, I want to be able to say, okay, well, let's go to plan B. Let's try to work with, law enforcement now. Dow's got a good one here.
Yeah. You could file an EPA claim if you suspect the car is in the pond, and the state will test the water for contaminants for free, and the landowner cannot deny them access. That is something I didn't even consider.
No, I didn't think of that either. And I know we've had at least one pond there supposedly was oil gas coming to the surface in it, because they were seeing the rainbow slick in the water back in the day. And I mean, I believe police went to that property and kind of just dismissed it, didn't they, Dennis? I
Yeah.
mean,
Now, that is one of the properties that divers did get in the water, but there's not a lot of detail on it.
yeah. I mean, there's got to be either natural oil coming up, which I mean, I know that happens just from riding four wheelers with your cousin Justin, and out by his property, um, the creeks have oil coming up in the creeks. It literally
Right.
up and comes up on the surface. It's crazy.
And Jennifer, thank you. Gloria asked, what if every one of us called the police station and kept calling till they opened the case, meaning reopen Randy's case? Ms. Jennifer, it is an open case that Leavenworth claims they are still actively investigating. So they haven't fully closed the case. I mean, it's obviously cold case being this long, but they do consider the case still open. That EPA claim, that really has my interest right now.
Yeah, that's pretty. Oh, excuse me. I got up really early this morning. Sorry.
And I want to go back up to Jennifer. I think you guys should also present landowners with a liability waiver to ease their minds. I do have a liability waiver that I had printed out to take with me or to mail to them as well. And so far, I haven't seen it help us get permission, but that is something I will continue to do. And as Max said, it's never been closed, just cold. Mac also says, stop that, Alex.
Sorry, I'm a little tired.
Guys, there was a lot we wanted to kind of go into on this tonight. And very obvious, we're not going to get to a lot of it. So we will be doing another live on Randy in the very near future to finish this up. I just saw we've been on over 2 hours already tonight. That went quick. And to all of you in the comments, contributing in the comments tonight, you guys have been incredible. We appreciate each and every one of you. And that teamwork is what helps bring missing people home. And hopefully this is the year that Randy is found and brought home. We do have, as I was saying earlier, we do have several searches lining up that we'll be running sonar on. We do have several ground searches. Unfortunately, we would need GPR for those again. In Dow. And also let them know that there is a reward if evidence is found that leads to the location of his whereabouts. Absolutely. But we will be. Last year we planned on getting out to do a lot of searches, and then it was like all of us got busy with work and getting sick. It seemed like I would get sick as I'm getting better. Alex or Tammy is sick as they're getting better. Somebody else. It was just a rough year for that. But we do have several searches lined up already in Randy's case and many others. And that was something else I wanted to state earlier. When it comes to getting permission, I shared the story of the 3 property owners I needed permission on in the Randy Leach case. Well, there were 3 property owners we needed permission from on Crystal Kipper's case. And it was a night and day difference because all 3 of them were 100% on board. Please do this, get it searched.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And one of the property owners on the Crystal Kipper's case, one of the property owners, her niece was, I believe, good friends with Crystal Kipper. So it really hit home with her because she knew exactly. And when I told her, about the guy that supposedly had done this, that his car was seen by her property, she was just like, oh my gosh, absolutely, you have our permission. And she was one of them, that straight up told us that every year when they're, cutting corn and cutting beans, they're always afraid they're going to find somebody dead laying down there in the bottoms. So, but yeah, getting permission is night and day difference. Some people absolutely, some will straight up ignore you.
yeah.
They know. And I know it's just, a lot of people think it's just like, well, you should be out every day doing searches. Well, you should be out every weekend doing searches. Well, we gotta have permission to do it. We just can't. We have 2 places right now. Literally, we could stop and get out of the truck and probably nobody would say a word. Well, we want to do it the right way. We don't want to get in trouble. And these searches revolve around Randy's case. And these have nothing to do with GPR. And right now, it's working on trying to get permission. And so far, we haven't gotten anywhere with it. I have reached out on Facebook because I found one of the owners on Facebook. Dennis has reached out via telephone calls, and we get nowhere. So I know a lot of people will get on and see things, and their opinion is, well, did you search this weekend? Well, did you go here? Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? And it's just not as easy as a lot of people think it is. I mean, we spend 75% of the time looking on social media, anything and everything, looking at evidence, anything and that. And then those things roll over into physical searches. And that's where it is trying to get permission to obtain permission to get access to land.
Seeing, going back to wanting to go out there anyway, and somebody may not say something. The thing with just, because there's some places we would love to do that, but if we were to go on a property without permission and find something there, say a foul play case, and a recovery is made, there's evidence there to prove who murdered this particular person. The defense, when it comes to the court case and trial, could have that thrown out because that evidence was found under unlawful means, meaning without having the property owner's permission, we're not supposed to be on there looking. So it would hinder justice being served, and in a roundabout way comes, possible tampering with evidence, hindering an investigation. And not just be little trespassing charges, that can literally bring it around federal charges. And granted, while yes, it might bring the missing person home to their family, but it could take justice from the person who actually committed the crime and put it on yourself in their place for jeopardizing that. And I know that was a messed up shotgun way to get that out there, but I hope you kind of understand what I'm meaning with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's a lot of work. It really is, and I hope people understand that. When it comes to these things, because it's a lot.
And thank you. Dow, also searching without permission could jeopardize prosecution as the defense could claim fruit of the poisonous tree. And Jennifer, even your water rights laws in Kansas prevent you from searching Stranger Creek. And what she is meaning with that, Kansas is one of those states that, unless it is considered a navigable waterway, which in Kansas, that's only the Missouri River, the Kansas River, and the Arkansas River. If it's not one of those, then the property owner, like Stranger Creek, the property owner owns the water that flows through that creek as it goes through their property as well, meaning you have to have their permission or you're trespassing. Missouri is different. The property owner owns the land under the creek, but they do not own the water as it comes through. So if this is on the Missouri side, we could still go in to search the creek as long as we can get a boat through. But Kansas, you cannot. You got to have permission. Now, the Kansas River and the Missouri River, it is considered public property up to the normal high water mark. As long as you're between the water itself and that high water mark, you can walk all the way up and down the Kansas or Missouri rivers here. But when you get off in the creeks, you got to have the permission. And Mark, anyone have drones that can fly at night? Is it possible to drop a strobe into a pond and then video and photograph at night? Would the strobe outline a car if the pond contained one? And he is going to do an experiment with the strobe light in a pool and see how it illuminates.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
You'll have to let us know what you find on that, Mark. That might be something that we can do in a pond as well. So, because water clarity in a pond versus a pool is obviously going to be different. So maybe that's something we can do with a pond and take a drone up over it. Yeah, the strobe would sink to the bottom and light it up from the bottom up.
But that would have to be a pretty, how could you figure out the size of strobe that would be needed to basically light up a pond, depending on the depth, the everything about the situation. I know it would be you'd have to test your theories and figure it out, but
seeing as Dow says also, that still falls under illegal search because you're actually physically putting something in their pond to do that. So that would still fall under illegal search. Now, if the drone had flown over, Donald Irwin's is a good case for this. They had flown a drone over the property and had seen something on their imaging that looked like it could be a vehicle in there. That is enough that it did not fall under illegal search. But if it was this kind of thing and it was nighttime and they dropped something into that pond to illuminate, then you're putting something physically on their property and that could fall under illegal search and possibly a couple other charges with that too. Mark said, I'm not too concerned with that, Dow. But the problem is with that, if you do it that way and you do find something, again, that could hinder any prosecution if it comes to that. Now, if it was an accident, obviously you're not going to hinder a lot, but if it turned out to be foul play, which if it's in a pond, odds against foul play, in my opinion, really drop. It would be more towards accident along those lines, but it's one of them gray areas.
Yeah. I mean,
Mark, not too concerned with prosecution either. Well, again, this goes back to it's not about being concerned about somebody not getting prosecuted, but if you hinder somebody else from being prosecuted under law because you done this illegally, those charges can be turned around on you. So you would be the one facing those charges essentially. And it could also let, if it turned out to be foul play, the open door for that person to get away with it.
yeah. I mean, the best way is to get permission, and that is, that's the best way to eliminate anything at any cost, but it doesn't work out that way. It doesn't work out that way, the majority of the time, it seems like, anymore. And I think that's, like going back to doing the search from the party to the Leach resident. I think we need to do the historical images website, and the other one, I think we need to basically get. Tammy's behind me and it's echoing. Yeah.
Fine. Want everybody to see me in a robe?
So, I think I forgot what I was saying. So basically, if we could do it the legal way, that is the best way. That way, there's no repercussions. There's no anything like that. I know what I was saying. Doing the historical images, going, on there, seeing, from the party to the Leach residence, those ponds that are along those routes, the most logical routes that Randy could have taken home. Basically seeing what ponds were there in 1988 and which ones have been built recently. That way we know which houses to try to get permission. If we are able to have our connection, the diver that we are working with, if we could have him with us when we try to do this one weekend, that would be the best. Because if we could go from door to door, start at the party area, work our way over a couple days, ask permission, access granted, access denied, move on it. Sorry, I had to cough. If we could, do it that way, I think that would be the best way to finally once and for all resolve any issues with any body of water from the party area to the Leach residence. Yeah, if you read Dall's comment, that's why I kind of coughed. It caught me off guard.
Was an insurance claim filed against the loss of the vehicle that would have put the VIN in a national database?
It was.
So, guys, with that, 2 hours, 19 minutes, thank you guys for being on here tonight. Again, we will do a follow-up live on this in the coming days. and kind of pick up where we left off and go into several different things as well. And again, follow along. We do have a lot of searches to do this year, several on Randy. And again, hopefully that other team does get to come up. I know there's some things going on right now that it's going to depend on certain things down there. But if everything works out, hopefully we can get a lot of those ponds searched. Hopefully all of them. And we'll be filming as many of these as we can and bringing that to you as well. Again, we're not going to edit our search videos anytime that we bring our sonar imaging to you guys or anything like that. We want you to be able to see the raw footage of that, just in case we do happen to miss something and one of you pick up on it. And hey guys, at this time frame on that sonar, I thought I saw this. We can go back and check that out and see if we need to get back on that location. But there will be several search videos released this year, multiple cases. So definitely want to be around for that. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. We're running about 50-50. Half of our views are coming from people who have not subscribed to the channel. So if you haven't, please do. Hit like, leave a comment, so that way YouTube doesn't see it as inactive on the channel and deletes it. Can you start searching other nearby states till you get the GPR and perhaps find other missing persons? We do have, we've been out this year or this last year on several searches from multiple cases. Right now we have locations on, I want to say it's 15 different cases we'll be on this year. And that's really going to grow. It's going to grow a lot, just the locations alone.
Yeah.
So you're going to see searches from multiple states this year. And Mac, that's why I love this group. No one tries to hide anything. We want to be as transparent with you guys as we can, because all of this, it's not about me. It's not about Muddy Water Search and Recovery. It's about these missing people and bringing them home. And hiding stuff from you guys isn't going to assist in that. It's going to hinder that. So we just want to do everything we can to help bring these people home.
Yeah.
And all of you are, in my opinion, just as big of a part of this as we are. You guys are reaching out to us with information. You're jumping in on these discussions, sending locations over. So, the teamwork, it's all about teamwork.
It is. It is a tremendous amount of work to do these type of things. It's a lot of studying. It's a lot of group discussions. If you couldn't do bookwork in school and you couldn't socialize and talk, this isn't the thing for you. It is a lot of, like I said, talking, discussing, bookwork, reading, watching stuff, reading documents, trying to comprehend stuff. And I mean, we can be clear as day is that half the stuff you can't even understand and read half the time, especially if it's on paper.
Right.
So it is a lot of work. It is like, it's like you're going back to school. It really is. I mean, it's homework. It's, studying, comprehending stuff and trying to understand it. And I mean, there's lots of times we'll read stuff and we got to discuss it 15 times to understand what we're trying to figure out. I mean, so it's a lot. It really is, for sure.
But it's It's worth it though. I've been involved in recoveries in the past before Muddy Water Search and Recovery. And I can tell you personally, when the family gets answers, the work you put in, the time that you put in, it's worth it. You know, you see that stress and that pain of not knowing, like, leave. And granted, you know, once that chapter closes, a new chapter opens that, in all honesty, isn't that much easier for the family. But the fact they know where their loved one is, you see that leave their shoulders. It makes all of this worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, guys, with that, we will let you guys know when the next live feed will be. I do plan on going live again next Sunday night. The Sunday night after that, we may not. A lot of people will be watching the Super Bowl. We'll be watching the Super Bowl here. So we'll definitely keep you guys up to date. Alex, was there anything else?
The Western Farm Show. We will have a booth at the Western Farm Show this year here in the Kansas City metro area. Please, if you are out and about, or if you're bored and have nothing to do, you know, please come to the farm show. It's an agricultural based type trade show. Anything and everything is really there, though. But we will be there this year for the first time. We will be upstairs. We will be by the petting zoo area, and more than likely on the other side of us, where cattywampus, will be the Missouri Highway Patrol that will be near us. But we will be there, you know, promoting, working with the public on missing people's cases. If you all, you know, we would love for people to come by and see us from the channel that watches us. If you could, that would be wonderful. Also, this year, we will start having public meet and greet type public awareness events. We will be setting up in parking lots with banners with missing people. You know, we will try to do it once a month in a particular location, you know, cases, you know, around the areas that, you know, we are all from. You know, we will definitely be doing that. Of course, you know, with Randy Leach's case, you know, we are still on the hunt for another car to do, you know, our experiments to prove, disprove theories. Not looking to spend 10 grand, you know, not looking to spend 5 grand on a perfect, you know, car that's been in the garage its whole life that your grandma owned. Because in the end, we're going to destroy it, plain and simple. Dodge 600, Plymouth Caravelle, and I believe, was it the Chrysler New Yorker? I think those 3 cars shared the same platform when they were built. I know that the Plymouth Caravelle shares the same front and rear fascia as the Dodge 600, meaning the bumper, the grille, the lights are identically the same. The Chrysler version was different. Even though it was the same car, the Chrysler front fascia and rear fascia on the car was different. But it would be the same engines, same weight, so on and so forth. Of course, we would like to find an exact replica of, you know, Alberta Leach's car. That way, you know, trying to make things, recreate things the most realistic way, that would be the best scenario. So we have that project coming up. We also have coming up another project that I've discussed, and that is the Apple AirTag experiment, and that is numerous cases that we have. And Randy's case is one of those where, and this is a hypothetical type experiment. Of course, 100% we cannot recreate it, but there's been so many theories and rumors of accusations of people, cars floating down river, going hundreds and hundreds of miles away. You know, we do know that bodies will come out of cars through a door, through a window, and they can come out and float away. Unfortunately, Donald Irwin's case in Missouri, his car was found in a pond. His body was not found in the car. It was found outside of the car. Some of his remains have been recovered, some have not. But this is a 100% example that just because someone's in a car when it goes in the water does not mean it will stay in the water. So we are going to use Apple AirTags with some floatable devices, and we are going to put them in some locations of cases around the Kansas City metro area. Randy Leach's case is one of them. Jeremy Coots' case out of Atchison, Kansas, the 4-year-old that went missing in the 70s, supposedly went down to the river, possibly climbed on some ice or slipped in the river. Supposedly, he succumbed to what happened. That's another one where, for information, for statistics, for our own research is, possibly how far could someone go? It's not a 100% science recreation because we can't get the exact weights of these things and everything, but it's a test to say, yeah, something could float this far away, or no, look, it only went a mile down the river and it got tangled up in something and that's where it stayed. So it's just an experiment. It's just something that we've talked about. We've talked about in many cases where people go in the water and they're never seen again. So we have that coming up. So we have lots of things coming up just besides getting out and doing ground searches and our regular work that we normally do. So hopefully everybody can join us, as we move along over the next few months and do these experiments. Dennis and I and the rest of the group would love to have you all be a part of it with us. Give us your input, your thoughts as, we do these experiments and stuff. So, but like Dennis said, please like, share, subscribe. If you feel it in your heart to become a member of the channel, we would be so blessed for you to do that. If you would ever love to donate to our cause and what we do, we would be so blessed, if you would like to do that. And Dennis usually puts in all the information, in the paragraph below the heading of the video and stuff.
And speaking of donations, I hadn't got on GoFundMe in a while. I got on and looked the other day. We did have another person donate another $50. So thank you very much for that. And that will be, they didn't specify if that goes to GPR. It was in the general GoFundMe. So if you see this, please contact me. Let me know if you want that to go towards, you know what? Let's just go ahead and put that towards GPR. We really need that GPR unit. So we will add that with the other $100 that was recently donated and put that over towards GPR.
And thank you so much for whoever has done this. We greatly appreciate it.
It helps a lot.
It does.
So guys, with that, we will keep you updated when we will be live again. We have a busy year coming up with all of this. Looking forward to it. So with that, till next time, you guys stay safe and let's do everything we can to bring Randy and these other missing people home.
Thank you.